April 19th, 1995, I was heading out the door to kind of wrap up a semester in my MBA class at Oklahoma City University, and I was on a fast track trying to finish that degree and felt the impact of the bomb. Was several miles north of here, and came back into my condo, turned on the television to watch the Channel 9 helicopter begin to tell the story on the news. And that's really how I begin to remember it. What you see in the museum of the Channel 9 helicopter beginning to unfold and show the bombed out building was what the very first minutes I remember. At the time, and still is, the worst domestic terrorist attack on American soil. And I think people wanted to make sure that was marked in a way that people would remember. It would be so much easier to have put up a monument in the new federal building and redeveloped this area and moved on. I think there was people who thought that then and who still think that today. It is hard to have to drive by the memorial every day and remember what happened in your city 20 years ago. It impacts me in several ways. I think one is probably more understanding, more tolerant than I was prior to taking this job. I think I am way more sympathetic and understanding of people that go through major issues. And I think when you watch family members put their lives back together, family survivors, rescuers, whatever their background, whatever their connection to this story is, it's not just easily forgotten because April 19th is 20 years ago or 21 years ago. It's still a part of their lives. They've had to get to a new normal in their life. And I've watched that family by family by family. Not all of them have been positive outcomes, but many of them have been. A good friend of mine had died, and I had watched the process with his widow go through, and it seemed very slow to me. I mean, as a just everyday person, it seemed really slow to me. And I look back on that, I think that was God's preparation really for me in this job. I mean, I remember how hard it was to move his house shoes from the side of his bed for her. And I think now how that was a moment in time that prepared me for this job when I watch family members trying to figure out how to move clothes out of a closet or to redo a bedroom or to how to get a survivor child in this place for the first time because they didn't even remember living through this incident. I mean, walking through those steps has been something that has been a lesson I never thought I would learn. What we realize is that grief is so individual and so personal. How I may grieve would be different than how you would grieve, and how quickly I can move forward and how quickly you could be polar opposites. But it's very individualized, and I think we have to be respectful of that and honor that. Where some are able to put together their families and move forward. Others are just now 21 years later beginning to start that process. And so while it's easy to pass judgment on what took them so long, or why are they not over it, or what's closure, I mean, all those phrases kind of almost make me giggle that people are so arrogant to think they can dictate someone's grief. I do think the memorial and the process of building it helped many people get through that process. But in other ways, I think it slowed some down, where they threw themselves into the memorial process. They may not have dealt with their own loss. So I've had some people tell me that. For some people, they don't want to come back through here. It's too much. It's too hard. For their kids, they want to get in here and learn the story of what their mom or their grandmother went through. And others bring people through here often, or they'll tell their story easily. That is such a personal journey that it really does depend on who it is and what they've gone through, and really how they mentally are today. I mean, it's not even mental tough. It's just a capability of if they're willing to expose themselves to the sadness of it. It's just a very sad story. Those journeys are so personal. You've got to let people get there, and I think you've got to be patient with them. I mean, it's no different than having a house blown away in a tornado, or a house taken by fire, or being a victim of rape. They're all very personal journeys, and I think it has taught us enormous patience as we watch people go through those steps of healing. So how do you make the story that is 2 decades old relevant to kids who didn't live through it? And so for my kids who are 14 and 12, they don't know life without terrorism. And I didn't really know it until the First World Trade Center in New York in '93. I mean, it never occurred to me that it would happen in America. And so I think we have to make sure kids realize it is everywhere and it is a part of their life, and making sure we teach them and give them the tools to fight against it and to be vigilant against it. On a day-to-day basis, our job is to continue to educate and to teach and to make sure that we teach the lessons of this and the impact of this to a generation that wasn't even alive 21 years ago. I hope down the road, 2-3 generations from now, or 6 generations from now, they will look back on this story and realize how people came together and worked. I hope they will realize the great lessons of police work and of investigation work that happened here. I mean, I hope they'll realize the tenacity of the people who figured out how to rebuild a city, how to find the very best of the very worst. I hope they'll find that families figured out how to put their lives back together. I don't know where we'll be 20 or 30 years from now, but I think this will always set a precedent of how people responded.